Hi, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Turner. It's week 10 of our distance learning. In fact, it's the last week of school. This week, we will be reading nonfiction books about animals that live in the ocean. Do you remember what nonfiction is? Nonfiction is information. It's true. Today, we're reading a book called Aquarium. An aquarium is a tank filled with water that has plants and or animals that live in water. When we read nonfiction books, it's important to look at the illustrations or the photographs and to think about the words that the author's telling you. Today we're going to especially look at the relationship between the pictures and the words. So the word aquarium is the title, and I see a picture. This looks more like a photograph. Doesn't really look like an aquarium to me, but I see an animal, a turtle, a sea turtle that lives in the ocean. And then around it is something really colorful. I wonder if the book will tell us about this colorful rock-like thing that we have here. So this is written by Julie Murray. Let's get started. Aquarium, Julie Murray. Oh, this looks cool. It looks like a tunnel that people are in with fish all around. That's pretty cool. This is a feature of many nonfiction books. It's called the table of contents. So there is a word, and then across from the word is a number, which refers to the page where you'll find that. So we're going to learn something about an aquarium on page 4. What is at an aquarium, page 22. There's a glossary and an index. We'll talk about those when we get to them. So remember, we're looking at the picture, and we're going to talk about how the picture connects to the words. I see a school bus. I'm thinking this is a setting at school, and the grown-up is probably the teacher, and the children are probably students. Aquarium. It's field trip today. Oh, it's field trip day. The class is going to the aquarium. There are lots of fish. Some are big, some are small. So let's look at this photograph. I see the people, and we can compare the size of the fish to the people. This fish is big. Look how much bigger it is than the people. And these fish are much smaller than the fish and the people. Ted finds a sea turtle. It has flippers. The word flippers is a different color. We're going to find this later in the book. I'm looking over here. This is the flipper. It's what helps the turtle swim. And this must be Ted looking at the flipper and the sea turtle. Look at the comparison of their size. Ted is tall, but he's about the same size as that sea turtle, it seems to me. Jose touches the ray. It is smooth. And I think this might be Jose, because he looks like he's touching the sea turtle. Would you be brave enough to touch a ray? Would you be brave enough to touch the ray? This is pretty. This reminds me of what was on the front cover. Liz sees a coral reef. It has lots of colors. The words coral reef are a different color. We're going to find out what a coral reef is later. But right now I can make a prediction. I can predict that this is the coral reef. because it does have lots of colors. Hun sees the penguins. They are swimming. Did you know that a penguin was a bird? Did you know that some birds live in the ocean and swim in the ocean? The sharks are big. They swim slowly. These sharks are big. Would you be brave enough to be this close to a shark? The worker feeds the fish. Mary watches. This must be Mary over here. Here's the worker feeding the fish. Reminds me about a zookeeper. This would be a pretty cool job if you ask me. Have you been to an aquarium? And I can see some fish that look familiar. Maybe some clownfish, and this might be an angelfish. Boys and girls, these are some of the text features that we saw in the beginning of the book. It says, what is at an aquarium? So fish, penguins, sharks, turtles. Here's the glossary. The glossary has 2 photographs from the book. It has those words that were written in a different color, and then the words that tell what they are. So here's a coral reef, and the words that tell about a coral reef. A coral reef is a mound, kind of like a hill, and it's made up of tiny animals that are in warm, shallow seawater. And here's a flipper. The flipper is a wide, flat limb on a turtle that it uses for swimming. It's kind of like its leg or arm, foot. So I hope that you enjoyed this book. I hope that you see how important the photographs are to understand the text. So when we go back through it, we can see how big a shark is, because the illustration or the photograph shows us a child close to a shark. And we know how big a child is. You think about how big you are and how big the animal right here is. It looks pretty large, doesn't it? Then you can kind of get an idea what the size a penguin is and how a penguin swims. He puts his head up at the top, maybe to get some air. He can dive deep. We learned what a coral reef looks like, how it does have a lot of colors. We can learn that it's safe to touch a ray. We learned that it was smooth. We can see that a sea turtle is large. We learned what a flipper looks like. We can see that some fish are small, some fish are very big. These illustrations are really helping us learn. And speaking of learning, that's why people go on field trips. People leave their classroom and go where they can see plants or animals in a natural state or close to a natural state. They can learn a little bit more about what they've learned in class. And I sure hope that you get to go on a field trip either this summer or next school year. Maybe you'll go to an aquarium. Maybe you'll even have your own aquarium. Well, I'll see you the next day as we read about another ocean animal.